today we continue with our class of Kitzur Shulchan. Today is class number 74. We start with Sefer Hofetz Chaim on page 212. The big topic is same relationship, and today's topic, potentially harmful relationships. In the next set of rules concerning information, which, if provided, could prevent a potential relationship, for example, business partnership, shidduch, right, hiring a worker, from materializing. Okay. In these cases, halacha differentiates between the three situations. Number one, where one suggests the relationship. Number two, where one is called on to answer question from one party concerning another. Number three, when one is in a position of volunteering information, when one is in a position of volunteering information to enter to either one of the parties about the other, though it has not been requested. So let's try to understand. So let's try to understand. So first, where one suggestion suggests the relationship. So you know that this is good guy and this is good girl. So you suggest a shidduch. Okay, one. And maybe you know something, right? That if the other side would know, they would not proceed. Let's say, right? Number two, where one is called to answer question from one party concerning the other. So they know it's your childhood friend, and they call you and ask question about this guy, right? Number three, when one is in a position to volunteer the information to either one of the parties about the other, though it has not been requested. So maybe you know the secret that this guy is actually a junkie, and he's beating up his parents every other day. So now he wants to get married. So you want to get to go ahead and warn this lady, basically. Okay, so it's three different scenarios. These three situations involve different Torah commandments, and therefore are to be dealt with using various criteria. When suggesting that someone consider entering into relationship with someone else, one must be mindful of the commandment before the blind person do not place a stumbling block. So do not say that this guy is a perfect guy, he's the most honest, go in business with him, right? If you know that he's not. It says Vayikra 19:14, which our stages interpret to as admonition, not to offer advice which is not proper. So putting a stumbling block in front of the blind is, as Rashi explains, it's not only like in a literal sense, but in a figurative sense. When somebody is blind in such area, so you cannot give him wrong advice. It is absolutely forbidden to suggest someone as a possible employee, business partner of the marriage partner, if one is aware of that. 4 or 8. Just a second. Okay. Number one, objectively speaking, it may not be good for the people involved. Right. So if you know that he's not a good worker and he's a lazy guy, just because he wants money to pay the rent, it does not mean that you're allowed to suggest him to somebody else, right? Or it does not satisfy the subjective needs and the taste of both parties. Okay. Not only it is cruel to subject people to situations that are bad for them. I mean, that they trust us, and then we're going to give them the wrong advice. It is also wrong to involve the unsuspected relationships they would not have wanted, and they had they know the facts. Example of the rules will be discussed below. I mean, day after tomorrow. So I mean, oops. Meaning if they just because somebody withdraw information, so it looks very good, but basically it's not good to give this advice to other people. All right, stop here. So we continue with our laws of written from Sefer Torah, and it's Siman 23, and I'm on page 262. Okay, Siv number 19. So it says that each Oleh is required to read at least 3 verses. Okay. Additionally, on Mondays and Thursdays, as well as during the Mincha service on Shabbos, one must read for all Olim combined, minimum of 10 verses. Okay, so let's stop here and understand. So first of all, minimum for each person is 3 verses. All right, and but for 3 people, because we call minimum 3 people, Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos Mincha, 3 people. So in minimum we have to read 10 verses. Most of the time it's much more than that, but that's the obligation. So commentary say less than 3 verses is considered insignificant amount and is not considered proper Torah reading. See Mishna Berura. Okay. So about 10 verses commentary. The 10 verses correspond to 10 commandments. Interesting. And the 10 utterances of, with which God created the world. See Mishna Berura. Very interesting. So very straightforward explanation. Okay, so minimum 3, 3, and 4, or I mean minimum 3 each, but altogether it must be 10. To accomplish this, one should read for the third Oleh 4 verses. So 3, 3, but practically we read, I think, more. They usually try to complete one idea for each aliyah. Okay. After the fact, if they did not read all for all the Olim together, 10 verses, but read only 9 verses, 3 verses for each, we have fulfilled the obligation. Okay, so let's see. The Purim is its famous example. And on Purim, when one reads for all of the Olim combined only 9 verses, that is because the topic is completed there. So I mean, I think on Purim this about Amalek. I think this piece it's only 9 verses. That's it. No more. So this is famous exception. Okay, commentary. Here Kitzur accounts for a discrepancy in the law. If minimum Torah reading must contain 10 verses, how is it that on Purim only 9 verses, Shmos 17 verses 8 through 16 are read? To explain that as a topic read on Purim is completed in 9 verses, there is no requirement to read more. I mean, it's the end of the chapter, basically. All right, so that's exemption. Next, halacha number 20. Someone reading from the Torah should not stop at the point from which there is not a remain until the end of the passage, where it is an open or closed passage, and a minimum of 3 verses. Okay, so let's try to understand. So what does it all mean? From the beginning and with commentary and explanations. Someone reading from the Torah should not stop at the point from which there does not remain until the end of the passage, whether it is open or closed passage. So what does it mean? Commentary 78. The Torah is composed of the parshias or passages. These are not equivalent to the division of the 52 parshias of the weekly Torah. So this part, 54 parshias, it's like with the names have nothing to do. Those are separated with spaces. Right? The ones that we are talking about here. Okay, weekly Torah reading. Rather, there are sections, some which are quite long and are comprised of many verses, and some which are short as one verse. It's already paragraph passage. The layout of the Torah is arranged so that each individual parasha passage ends in the middle of the line. So when you have spaces between them, so you understand it's like, you understand that's the end of the passage. The layout of the Torah is arranged so in the middle of the line. Where the passage that follows begins in the next line, the first passage is considered open. So they would not complete the line; they would put like empty spaces, and that's what we call open passage. A reference to the open spaces until the end of the line. So meaning the line they would not complete; they would put in empty spaces. If second passage begins in the same line, after the space over few letters, the first passage is described as closed passage, for the line is closed by the start of the next passage. So, I mean, the simple explanation is if they break in the middle of the line, so you have a line, right? So and you have a break, spaces. I'm not sure. I think it's 9 spaces. I mean, it does not say, but somehow like it's not few. It's more than few. And then you have another one, start another passage. So it's they call it close, right? And if you like they do not, the second one starts from the new line, so it's open passage. So that's what they trying to say. So basically, they say do not stop in the middle, in the middle of the sentence, basically. No, in the middle of the passage. So passage and sentence is not the same thing, basically. Okay, so one more time. After the fact, if the stop in. Okay, so one more time the whole sentence. Someone reading from the Torah should not stop at the point from which there does not remain until the end of the passage, whether it is open or closed passage. So we just explained open and closed. The minimum of 3 verses. 79. Stopping at the point from which only 2 verses remain at the passage for the next over must mislead someone into thinking that one may read even less than 3 verses. Okay, so basically today for us it's very simple. If you have in the back of the Siddur, in most of the Siddurim, you have this Torah reading on Monday and Thursday, of course, Shabbos Mincha. It's exactly the same reading. So there it is broken by Aliyah, so it's very simple to know. So you are the king of the world, you know, like what's going on. But in a regular Chumash, you don't know when to start. I mean, it's not even though it says Kohen. I mean, it's not the regular Kohen. I mean, it's Kohen for Shabbos, but here it could be only 3 verses. So that's what they mean. Okay. Continue. If the Aleh already recited the blessing, and haven't stopped with less than 3 verses remain near the close of the passage, one reading after him, there is the next Aleh, is not required to begin from the previous verse. Is not required to begin with the previous verse. Okay, rather he should begin with a point at which the first Aleh stopped. But he should read with him an additional 3 verses in the second passage. Okay, so let's try to understand. So that guy before me, right? So he read a little more, and he left me only two verses. Okay, so what should I do? So one more time, the situation. If the Aleh already recited the blessing, after they haven't stopped. So he already said the blessing after the reading of the Torah. With less than 3 verses remain near the close of the passage. Okay, that's all I have, 2 verses. The one reading after him, there is a next over, is not required to begin from the previous verse. Where he left off, he left me two verses. So I am not required to begin the 1 verse before. So altogether, I would have 3. Rather, he should begin from the point at which the first or less stop. So a proper point, meaning to finish with these 2 verses. But he should read with him an additional 3 verses in a second passage. Okay, 1 second. Let me. Wow. Okay. In a second passage. Okay, so what does it mean? 1 second. Let's take in a second passage. Okay, number 80. There is a reader should read with the second line. Okay, continue. Okay, somebody else, 1 second. What is it? Okay, all right, continue. So this one more time the sentence. Rather, he should begin from the point at which the first or last stop, right? But he should read with him additional 3 verses. Okay, so continue basically reading. From the second passage, number 81, commentary. He should not stop at the close of the first passage, as he must read the minimum of 3 verses. That he must begin the next passage. Furthermore, he also read the minimum of 3 verses into the second passage. Okay, so I mean it's very clear. I apologize for confusion. So basically, we said first that the person should read minimum 3 verses, right? That's what we said. Then we said the guy who read before me, he left me only 2 verses. What does it mean 2 verses? It's whole Sefer Torah. No, we said 2 verses until the end of the passage. And we said, just for those who just joined, there are 2 kinds of passages in the Torah, right? It's closed passage and open passage. Closed passage is when you have like a text of the Torah scroll, you have a break in the middle of the column, right? So there is empty spaces, and then the text continues. That's a closed passage. And open when they just leave spaces until the end of the line and start the next sentence from the beginning of the line. So basically, that's like breaking points. So they say, Halacha says, don't leave this is the end. This is like end of the idea, basically. So don't read so much and read that and leave the next only two verses to finish this passage. So leave a minimum 3. So now he left me only 2. So I continue reading to these 2 and plus extra from the next paragraph, basically. That's what it is. As for the passage that contains only 2 verses, it is permitted to stop upon reaching there. So what does it mean? Although he is stopping with the 2 verses of the end of the passage, since it is also in the end of the previous passage, it is permitted. Okay, so let's see, what does it mean? One more time the sentence, and we're going to explain. As for the passage that contains only 2 verses, somehow, passage that contains only 2 verses, right? From the beginning of these spaces before, spaces after, so only 2 verses possible. For the passage that contains only 2 verses, it is permitted to stop upon reaching there, right? If there is a passage break within the verse, as at the beginning of the Parsha Pinchas, it is permitted to stop even if they were at the verse next to it. So what does it mean? Commentary. The next sola will certainly not be stopped at the beginning of the passage, as it's in the middle of the sentence. Thus, even if one ola stops immediately before the last verse, it will not be misled into thinking that one can be ola with less than 3 verses. So basically, it's all about misleading other people. Of course, you can continue but not to mislead other people. Why? We said minimum each Oleh has to read 3 verses, but altogether for 3 Olim we need to read 10 verses. Okay. So this Parsha Pinchas, it's like this passage ends in the beginning, or in the middle of the room. Okay. Okay. Halacha number 21. Similarly, the reader should not begin to read within the less than 3 verses after the beginning of the passage. One more time. Similarly, the reader should not begin to read within the less than 3 verses after the beginning of the passage. Commentary. By reading within the less than 3 verses from the beginning of the passage, he implies that the previous Oleh, who presumably read from the beginning of the passage, read less than 3 verses. Okay, so it's beginning of the passage, and he starts from reading from the verse number 3. So so the problem is that the most likely that for the first person he read 3 verses, and now he wants to go back 1 verse to add to the second guy. I'm not sure why he's doing that, but it's for sure it is confusing. Therefore, this Oleh before him should not stop within the 3 verses after the beginning of the passage, and he should continue. The previous Oleh, even if he had read 3 verses in a previous passage, should not stop within less than 3 verses from the beginning of the passage. So, meaning if passage we said this paragraph is separated with the spaces, and if he sees that only 3 verses left, should just continue reading. As we said, minimum 3 verses, so let him read 5 verses. There is no problem whatsoever. More better than less. Okay. So of course, in our Sidurim, it's very not very much, right? It's very simple. You see where the Levi starts, where the Kohen starts. Of course, there is much more that is like but what they did these rabbis, it's according to all of their opinions. There is no problem whatsoever. No contradiction. Okay. Continue. Number 22. The reader should aim. So for us, basically, I'm not sure how it is applicable to us if we're not planning to read from the Sefer Torah, but just to get a basic idea. Right. Number 22. The reader should aim always to begin with a topic that has good connotation with regard to the Jews, and conclude with a topic that has good connotation with regard to the Jews. Similarly, he should not conclude with regarding one who has committed an evil deeds. So basically, that's how they broke down this the aliyahs, right? Even if we have in Torah, we know that there are like several passages where they have curses. So even if you have curses, the curses start with if you're going to listen to HaShem, all of the blessings, and if you're not, all of the curses. So it includes all of the curses. So it does not stop. Aliyah does not stop on all of the curses. So they finish curses, and after we finish with the curse, some positive thing. So as according to this halacha, it's not allowed to end with the curses. So it's always, even in a Novi, when you read Novi, so of course he rebukes people left and right, but and then he has this good message that Hashem still loves us and he's going to save us. That's the thing. Okay. Just a second. So, okay, continue. Number 23. If they read for one Oleh is the person being called to the Torah, only 2 verses, and he recited the concluding blessings, I'm not sure why, the reader must go back and read those 2 verses again. Very interesting. Somehow, I mean, maybe the way I see it, maybe this reader of the Torah, he paused for a second, and that guy decided that that's it. They will already complete the reading. He said after blessing quickly. That's the way I understand the situation. So one more time, and this commentary. If they read for one Oleh, only 2 verses, and he recited the concluding blessing. The reader must go back and read those 2 verses again, meaning two verses twice, 87 commentary, along with the 3rd verse. So now, I mean, he starts from the beginning and reads complete 3 verses. If he has not yet recited the final blessing, however, even if he rolled the scroll close, he may resume reading in the next verse. So it's very interesting. So after, if he finished the blessing after the Torah reading, we read from the beginning of his aliyah, these 2 verses plus new verse. So if he did not say the blessing, so first we scroll like we close the Sefer Torah, so he can open up until he said blessing, close and blessing. He can open up and we can read 3 verses again for him. Okay, verses 11. And the less should recite the blessing before and after the reading. Okay, so very interesting. So if he already said the after blessing, right? So we read only 2 verses for him. He said after blessing, and now we said the halacha is that he must read 3 blessings, right? So he said the new blessing on the Torah. So it's like a separate reading. Of course, it's additional unnecessary blessing, as we understand. But since halacha requires us to read three verses, so I mean, what can we do basically? Okay. Continue. And because after the concluding blessing, there is a suspicion of intent to read further, he must therefore begin again, also with borchu. Interesting. So let's see commentary. Above, see above and see of 18, the Allah was required to repeat the blessing of Asher Bochar Bono because he was not shown the correct place. However, he was not required to repeat borchu, as he never suspended his intention to be Oleh. When he recited the concluding blessing, however, as in this tziyaf, in his mind he was no longer the Oleh, and he believed that he was finished with Aliyah. He must therefore start again, repeat the borchu. So let's try to understand what it says. So here we made a mistake. We read for this poor guy only 2 verses. Now we have to read for him 2, right? And here he said already the blessing after the reading of the Torah. So now he has to say a blessing anew of the reading of the Torah, and he has to say borchu, right? I mean, it's straightforward. That's the halacha. The commentary, what we just read, last time when we were discussing a situation when they showed him wrong passage of the Torah, right? Like a wrong verse that they're going to read for him, and it was so wrong that it was not even on that page. So we said if it's on the page, if it's below the place that they show him, okay, after the fact, no problem. But let's say it was close. It was like I don't know, 2 columns to the left, 2 columns to the right, whatever. It was not there basically, right? So in this case we said do not repeat borchu, but just say the blessing of the Torah, Asher Bochar Ban Mikol Cham, right? So and the explanation here, I'm not sure who gives this explanation. Basically, I'm not sure who, like the author of this book, right? So he gives the explanation why, because there the guy knew that he did not finish the aliyah. I mean, maybe they showed him the wrong place, but in his mind he never finished the aliyah. In this case, the person after he said blessing after the reading of the Torah, his mind that the aliyah is finished, right? So that's the difference. So now he has to repeat borchu again. Okay, continue. Unless you have any questions, that's okay. The reader should then read the 2 verses that he read previously. In addition, and additional verses as well. Bring the amount of verses to 3. So basically, one more time the situation, they read for him 2 verses. Okay, he said after blessing, he says the blessing again, and they start from the beginning, wherever from his beginning, wherever these two verses, and plus they add minimum one or whatever verses needed to add. Continue. If this occurred during the third aliyah, so third aliyah meaning the last aliyah, I guess, right? We're talking about Monday and Thursday. If this occurred during the third aliyah, which is the last aliyah during weekday Torah reading, and the two alim before him each read only 3 verses, they must read additional 2 verses, so that altogether there will be 4 verses being read during the total, bringing the total up to 10. So let's read commentary and we explain. The meaning of Torah reading is comprised of 10 verses. It would not be enough to add only 1 verse when repeating this reading, since the 2 alim before him read only 3 verses. Therefore, 2 verses are added. So basically, we said if it's not the last aliyah, I mean, if it's first or second aliyah, Cohen or Levi, and they read by mistake for him only 2 verses, so they have to add the 3rd verse. He's done. But if 2 people before him read only 3 verses, which is normal, they didn't do anything wrong. But for him, we cannot read only 3 verses because altogether it's going to be 9, and we said the minimum requirement is 10, unless it is Purim. Okay. So in Purim, we can read 9 verses, but on other days, we need 10. If this occurs with a Kohen during the first aliyah, that he did not read more than 2 verses, and they already called upon Levi, and they remembered afterwards, then the law is as follows. So basically, the way I understand, so they finish with a coin, and Levi already maybe he's on his way to the bima. Maybe he's on the bima, right? Even okay. So if the Levi did not yet recite the first blessing, so he just came. They're looking at the place where to show Levi, let's say, right? And he did not recite the blessing, even if he already said Borchu. As we said, Borchu is a separate thing, right? He already said Borchu. It is not considered beginning of the blessing. Okay. The Kohen should thereupon return and should read the 3 verses with reciting the blessing, as I have written about. So basically, okay. So that's let's try to understand. So they. No videos, nobody. Okay. So right. So now here's the situation. They did only two verses for the coin, right? Only 2 verses for the coin. Thank you. For the coin. And now they call Levi. And Levi, let's say he said Borchu, but did not say blessing over the Torah. They have to return coin and read for him 3 verses. I mean, that's what it is. Okay. So and there is no disgrace to Levi, because why we're going to read for him right now. So we made a mistake with the coin, and we try to correct the mistake. There is no problem. Okay. The coin should therefore return and should read 3 verses with the recital of the blessing. So blessing, since he finished the blessing, that's it. This blessing is no longer valid, so he has to make new blessing. Okay. And plus, I guess Borchu also, right? As we said, as I have written above. Continue. The Levi should wait and read afterwards. Commentary. In C12, Kitzur outlined the laws to apply when Levi was called upon when the coin was present. Those laws apply here as well. So basically, this Levi person stands on the side and waits until Cohen finished. Okay. However, if Levi already recited the blessing, okay, then they should read with the Levi from the place at which Cohen stopped. So very interesting. So like more serious situation. So we already we call Cohen, and for Cohen we read only two verses, and now they call Levi, right? And then when they call Levi, and Levi already said the blessing, so somebody realized that they read only two verses for the Cohen, right? Okay, so what do we do? However, if the Levi already recited the blessing, they should read with Levi from the place which Cohen stopped. So basically, starting from the third verse, nothing changes, right? Stop. For if they would read for the Levi the verses that they read for the Cohen, it would be a suspicion upon the lineage of the Kohanim who are present, as people would say that the Levi was the first to read from the Torah before the Kohen. So I mean that's this logic is followed throughout the whole of this halacha. So basically, okay, we did a mistake with the Mr. Cohen. We read only two verses. Okay, so they say if you're going to read for a Kohen, so start from the beginning, do the first verses that you read for this Mr. Cohen, and add the third verse, and that's it, you're done, right? But now for a Cohen we read only two verses. Now they call Levi, and Levi already said blessing, so we must let him continue read from the Torah. So we cannot start from the beginning of the Aliyah, whatever we read for a Cohen. Why? Because people would suspect so that Cohen was not a good Cohen, right? So that's even bigger issue. That's why we start the Levi from the third verse. Okay, that's the explanation. And after Levi, they should call two Israelim, right? So basically for Cohen, nothing we can do since Mr. Levi already said the blessing. So now, of course, you cannot call another Cohen after Levi, and you cannot call Levi after Levi. Okay, as we explained last time. So they should call two Israelim, so regular people. So there will be three people called up to read. So basically, Cohen's Aliyah, in some sense, is not counted, right? I mean, whatever he did is very nice, but it's not enough for us to read the 10 verses, basically. The Cohen and his Aliyah is incomplete, so we still need three people after Cohen. The Cohen is not included in the number of Olim, exactly as we explained, as he read only two verses. So commentaries say, since the Cohen did not read three verses, it is as though he was not an Olim. So that's very strict. So we said three verses, meaning three verses. He read only two verses, so it's like he was never called. As at least he was called, but we cannot count him in a counting of the three people that have been called up to the Torah. As there must be a minimum of three Olim, and since one does not call up a second Levi, as we explained, right, one should call upon two Israelim to complete the number of Olim. Okay, that's. Let me know if any situation is not clear, so we can explain. Okay, so if not, continue. If this occurred with the Levi, that he read only 2 verses, and Israel, so I mean a regular Jew, was called up upon after him already recited the blessing, they should read for Israel and the 2 verses that they read for Levi, interesting, plus additional verse. Okay, so the question is why the halacha here is different, versus coin. So for coin, we said we do not repeat the two verses, we continue with number 3. But for Levi, for whom we did mistake, so we call it Israel, and we start from what he read plus extra. Okay, so let's see, 92. Since the Oleh who read the 2 verses was not a coin, there is no problem if we repeat the verses he read. Okay, no problem. Continue. They should also call upon another Israel to complete the requirement of 3 olim. So this Levi guy, Mr. Levi, right? So, I mean, even though he said the blessing, everything is good, but he cannot be counted one of the olim. Why? Because we read for him only two verses, and we need to read 3. If no coin was present in the synagogue, and they called upon Israel in his stead, and it happened that they read only 2 verses for him, and they did not realize this until after they called upon the second Israel, and he recited the blessing. Then the second Israel should begin from the beginning of the day's portion. Okay, so basically we don't suspect the Israel that he's like there's something bad in his lineage. Commentary, and we're going to explain. Here too, the first levels Israel, we can repeat the reading for him beginning from with the day's portion. So if there is no coin, no Levi, we call Israel and we read 2 verses, and then they realize that that's actually wrong. So they call another Israel, and they can start from the beginning and read these 2 verses plus extra whatever we need to read. Right, and so there is no insult to that Israel. It was our mistake. No problem. Continue. The first, but this first Israel is not counted number 3. So we still need to call 3 more people after him. The first Israel should wait, right? So I mean, he should wait, and he should read again after the second Israel. Very interesting. That's amazing halacha. Right, and after him they should call upon another Israel. So let's read the commentary and we're going to explain. As he read only 2 verses, he is not considered an olam. Since he is Israel, he can be called up again after the second Israel. So I think somebody asked a question, I don't know, last time or time before last. So if person can be called twice for the reading of the Torah, right? So maybe for whatever reason, right? So the answer is yes, we can call another person twice for the reading of the Torah. Of course, if he's Israel. I think coin you also can call, as we explained last time, if he's maftir or it's for different Sefer Torah. Okay, I mean, I'm not sure in what situation would be needed, but basically it is possible. So here in our situation. So we call this Israel as a first aliyah, okay? We did a mistake, I apologize, Mr. Cohen, Mr. Israel, so we read only 2 verses. Okay, 2 verses is not good. It's not an aliyah. I mean, okay, so he's stepping aside. We call another Israel and read from him from the beginning. 2 verses that we read for Israel number 1 and plus one extra verse, let's say. Right, and then we call up the first Israel. I mean, he's right here. It's not, but still have to call him up by name, and we have to read for him second aliyah. So meaning to show that whatever we call for him, I mean, it's fixable since he is not a Kohen, not a Levi. So, and as we said, we can call if needed Israel more than 1 time. So we call him for second time. Now we're going to read for him 3 verses, and there is no problem whatsoever. Okay, and after him we call another Israel. So basically the first aliyah, whatever was with 2 verses, is not good, completely not good. Okay, continue. Sif number 24. A minor should not be the reader, okay, and also he should not be called upon to assent to the Torah. Okay, so let's see. minor commentary, until he's 13 years of age boy, consider minor. Okay. And he should, so the meaning reader, the public reader, first of all, right? And he should not be called to the Torah. And the commentary said the Kitzur described an exception to this rule. So in some except, I mean, I know when we do, what is it, Simchas Torah, we call upon the kids. So kids get aliyah. I mean, I think there is also an adult with them, but all of the kids get an aliyah also. Like they like it very much. Okay, continue.
I have a question here.
Go ahead.
Before continuing, what is an Israel?
Israel, it's all Jews, not Cohen or Levi.
Okay, and the second question is if somebody who cannot be counted as part of a minyan can be called for the reading of the Torah.
For example, I give you an example. Somebody is Michal Shabbos, right? He's not observing Shabbos. We cannot call him for a Torah. Or if he's does something other sins. Okay, it's not for this lecture, but some other sins, so which disqualify him that as a Jew. He's temporary. He's on a ban. He's not a Jew. Or somebody who is going through the conversion, right? So I mean, he can do all of the other mitzvahs, but we cannot call him to the Torah yet.
So I think.
And plus, and the fourth category, if he's below 13 years old. Okay, go ahead.
Below 13 years old. So a converting per individual cannot read the Torah.
No.
Also, is it forbidden to read for him the Torah publicly, or it would be?
Yes. No. You cannot read.
Also, the Gemara, he cannot read in public, for example, in a video.
No. There is no problem with Gemara. So if somebody, let's say, if somebody is a process of conversion, if somebody is decided, maybe yes, maybe no, so we're not allowed to teach him oral Torah, forbidden. I mean, for him, it's a death penalty, basically, right? So somebody is not serious and he learned, and I warn people before they inches, I say, I said, look, first you go back and decide whatever you want to do. It's not my decision. Don't ask me, basically, right? So you go decide. If you want to convert, okay, we're going to learn together, right? I mean, in my class. But if don't, I mean, it's you bring upon yourself death penalty from Shammai. My job is to warn you. You do whatever you want. Understand? But once per person is in a process, the process can be 6 months, 3 months, I don't know, 6 years, 20 years, right? So he's allowed to learn the oral Torah, right? Because it's, I mean, the oral Torah is for his observance, of course. I mean,
but for example, if I want to share to not hide some part of the Gemara, for example,
Gemara, some parts that has to do with creation of the world, some stories, let's say from Exodus, yes, you can show them. But some like specific what we read now, they're forbidden to learn.
For example, I want to share. I learned about tractate Sanhedrin. It would be forbidden to do that.
100%, yes, 100%, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I mean, maybe you see in a tractate of Sanhedrin there's some stories, Agadah, right? So some Agadah you can show them, but not. But you see, even in outside just a story, but from this story they derive some laws. So that would be forbidden to teach them. But in general, like a very interesting story, yeah, you can tell them. Okay. Okay, so continue. Okay, so just to remind us, we're talking about all of these halachas. We said when we read in Sefer Torah on Monday and Thursday and Mincha Shabbos. Okay, we didn't get to reading on Shabbos yet. We did not. Okay. Number 25. I'm on the page 266. After the Torah reading, half Kaddish is recited, and one is raised up the Sefer Torah. Okay, so half Kaddish, that's usually the person who was reading the Torah, right? This Baal Korea, who like the public reader, he reads. Or they can call on somebody else. For example, there is a mourner in a congregation. He lost the loved ones, so they called him, and he can read this half Kaddish. I don't think it's strict. Right?
I have a question about this.
Yes.
If there is no mourners in that occasion, no, there is a skip of the half Kaddish.
Not this one. It's a good question. Not this one. This one is obligatory Kaddish. So this Kaddish is said by the one who was reading from the Torah. Some Kaddishim. Okay, let me explain. Some Kaddishim are said by the Chazan, the one who is leading the prayers, and some Kaddishim are said only by the mourners. But if somebody wants to, for example, somebody wants to, he can say Kaddish. Chazan, he wants to, he can say Kaddish. I think the laws of the Kaddish maybe not the next one, but like in a few others say a few. So, but people do not say Kaddish because it's a bad sign. It's a bad omen. Like you start saying Kaddish, maybe like Chas v'Shalom, maybe you're going to lose somebody in your family. You understand? So unless we're obligated to say Kaddish, or it's on a temporary basis. For example, sometimes I would say Kaddish, like now I have to say for somebody. I have somebody passed in my family, but before that I was not saying. And somebody would ask me one day or one prayer. He's sick. He cannot come for Shacharis, right? So he asked me to say for his relative on Shacharis. So one time basis there is no problem. But one person started like regularly say the Kaddish, that's the problem. Rabbis say it, but it's a different thing, right? When the rabbis say it, that's common because we know for sure that he's saying for other people. For example, there is single people who passed away, and there is nobody who is going to say Kaddish for them. So he's the only one available, basically. That's exception. But for other people, we try not to say unless you have to, or on one-time basis.
So this half Kaddish is recited by the Hassan only?
Yeah, no, it's if you have mourner, for example, in some shuls they give mourner like this privilege. The mourner would say Kaddish, yes.
And about this, that is a bad sign. So if a good sign maybe Siman Tov in Hebrew, how will be a bad sign in Hebrew?
Bad. It's no. So it's like it's ein hara, right? Ein hara. So you giving yourself a bad eye, right? So somebody died in his family. Maybe his father died. His mother died. Somebody died in his family. That's what people think. That's not a good idea. Okay. So we try not to give ourselves this ein hara. Okay. Any other questions, or we continue? Okay. So 1 second. Wow, time flew so fast. I think we can stop here if you have questions. Wow. I don't know what time is. Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead. Anybody?
Rabbi, so that palm K that I showed you, so it's okay. If it's parv or no, that LA kosher thing, kosher LA.
Kosher, I think it's part of his good, yes. So he's a question. So and let me just explain. I'm not going to repeat what Kashr's agency, that doesn't matter. So basically, there is a big difference in halachas of meat slaughtering, right, and checking between Ashkenazim and Sephardim, right? So not all of the, for example, I would not eat the Sephardic slaughtering because in some things they go leniently. No, not leniently. According to Shulchan Aruch, I apologize. According to Shulchan Aruch said this, but Rima, with Ashkenazic authorities, said absolutely, like he's stricter. She said, for us, we don't do that. Many times. So it does not mean that one is good and other is not good. So basically, we try to follow your own tradition. So this supervision that David asked me to check. So basically, all of them Sephardic rabbis. So for Ashkenazic person, meat products, it's not we do not eat because some of things they go leniently, we will go more strictly. It's still kosher, but we're trying to stick to our tradition, and that's it. Okay.
So it's a problem if I go to Ocean Parkway and want to buy meat there from the the Syrians, or no?
It's first of all, the Syrians also sell glad kosher. Ask them what is it.
So it just matters if it's glad kosher or not. That's all.
Yeah. So base yourself is not. I mean, it's the highest standard, the highest, but it's not OU glad. So you the star cake glad or you glad, other glad. So that's what Ashkenazim eat, or like this what is it, this Hasidische Haksha. You understand? So.
But for dairy, it's okay to have a Sephardi haksha?
I'm not sure. I don't want to answer because I'm not sure what's the difference.
Yeah.
So okay. Yes, that's the thing. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead. No? All right. So let's stop here then. All right. Thank you very much. It was a little shorter class. I didn't realize, but until tomorrow. B'ezrat Hashem, same time, we're going to continue with Hilchas TeShuva. B'ezrat Hashem. Thank you. Good night.
Shalom v'chai, everybody. We're back here in the United States after 6 extraordinary weeks in Eretz Yisrael, the Holy Land. We saw extraordinary things there. The beauty of the Kotel, the beauty of the land itself, and of course, the extraordinary beauty of the Chachamim. A huge event where several thousand people showed up to honor the Torah alongside us and also hear the wisdom of Gedolei Ador was what we started the trip with. But along the next several weeks, we got to meet many other Chachamim, spoke in many different places, kollels, yeshivot, Batei Knesset, and we got to see some of the most extraordinary things I've ever seen in my life. But one of the things that we did see that is not as exactly as exciting is the spiritual poverty that's in Eretz Yisrael in certain places. Places like Tel Aviv, places that people are walking the streets without having a concept of what modesty is, without having a concept of who the God of Israel is, without even having a concept that the fact that they're stepping on holy ground. These are our holy brothers and sisters that we've dedicated our life to help to get them closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And one of the things that we're doing in the United States, in Australia, in Canada, in England, and many other places around the world. Baruch Hashem, we've succeeded in doing it. But one of the other things that we did see is also that there's a material poverty. A material poverty is simply so abundant, so extraordinary, that it breaks your heart. We're sitting in our house when the next door neighbor decided to pass by to say hello, and while they were saying hello, they asked us if we have any extra toys because they simply couldn't afford to buy their kids any toys. Of course, my kids gave them their toys, and Baruch Hashem, we got to fulfill the mitzvah. But there are thousands upon thousands of these types of families of Chachamim, families of tzaddikim that simply have poverty as a standard way of living. These are the types of families that we've dedicated our lives to help as well. Over the last few years, we've helped tens of thousands of people to feed them during the holidays, to get them toys, to get them clothes, to get them beds, to get them whatever we possibly can. During this trip, we also lost a very dear friend, one of our partners in the distribution, a very dear friend of ours, Giveret Ital, that really dedicated her life to helping Am Yisrael. We're going to miss her, but as a dedication to her, as a dedication for Klal Yisrael, and as another way to honor our Kadosh Baruch Hu, we're continuing to do our food distribution as well as our spiritual distribution. We need your help. This time of the year is Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, the high holidays. These are the times where most people donate the most of their money during this time of the year, because they need the righteous judgment. They need the good judgment. They need to be blessed with a new child, with financial success, with a health miracle, with all types of issues. And Baruch HaShem, people know that the blessings of the Mizakei Rabim, people that have dedicated their life to helping Am Yisrael, those blessings get a special VIP treatment in Shamayim. Over the years, we've had many people tell us how each and every single one of their blessings that they received from us was fulfilled during that year. And as a result of their donations, they got many, many more folds of blessings than they could ever imagine. Please, partner with us during this time of the year. Be generous and also be understanding that this is the time where every single one of us gets judged, and every one of us needs a little help. If we help HaKadosh Baruch Hu's children, spiritually and materially, there is no doubt in my mind that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will also help us as well. Thank you very much for all of your support over the years. May Hashem continue to bless you, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we will all have a Shana Tova.
ידידיי ואהוביי, אחיי ואחיותיי היקרים, אם שמתם לב, ארגון בעזרת השם פעיל במשך כל השנה. הפעילות שלו מתבצעת במישור הגשמי והרוחני. זאת אומרת, לדאוג לאחינו בית ישראל, גם לנשמה וגם לגוף. ישנם אנשים שעניים בתורה. ישנם אנשים שעניים מבחינה כלכלית. לקחנו על עצמנו את התפקיד הקשה לדאוג גם מבחינה רוחנית וגם מבחינה גשמית לכלל ישראל בארץ ובעולם. ברוך השם, עד היום נעזרו על ידינו עשרות אלפי אנשים. משפחות נזקקות, לא רק מבחינה רוחנית, גם מבחינה גשמית, אם זה סלים בחגים, אם זה אוכל, אם זה שתייה, אם זה עזרה בעניינים רפואיים, בכל דבר ועניין שהיה נרתמנו לעזור, והחידוש הגדול שלא על מנת לקבל פרס. בלי אחוזים, בלי עניינים, עוד הפוך. ראשי הארגון באים ותורמים מכספם את כל מה שצריך כדי לבוא ולעזור לעם ישראל. זה הארגון היחיד שאני יכול לבוא ולהעיד שכולו לשם שמיים. לכן ידידיי ואהוביי, אנחנו מבקשים את עזרתכם לבוא ולהמשיך להפוך את העולם למקום יותר טוב. הן מבחינה רוחנית, הן מבחינה גשמית. ואנחנו בקמפיין הקבוע שלנו לימים נוראים, לפני החגים, שאנחנו באים ודואגים לאלפי אנשים בסלי מזון, בעזרה לחגים ובשאר מצרכים. לצורך זה פתחנו בקמפיין גיוס המונים של עזרה לנזקקים, ועוד קמפיין של תמיכה כללית בפעילות הארגון שנלחם במשך כל השנה בכוחות הרע, בעניינים של כפירה, בהפצת תורה ויהדות. כל מי שירצה לבוא ולהיות שותף, כאן בדף הזה של הקמפיין, מוזמן לבוא ויקבל ברכת שמיים, ושכל משאלות לבכם יתקיימו לטובה. שנה טובה ומתוקה, שנה טובה ומבורכת, ארגון בעזרת השם.